and the grandbabies. Happy 2025.
2025, 2024 is finally over.
2024 is over. We made it, right?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
we made it. So think about what you're going to be resolved to do. What's your resolution? We're resolved that we're going to live a happy
and
a new year.
Mansion.
He said he's going to get a mansion.
Ma, you said you was gonna get a mansion.
I am gonna get a mansion. We're gonna have a happy new year. We're gonna be the best version of ourselves, and we're gonna rejoice. We're gonna treat people well this year. We always try to treat people well, but we just wanted to come on and say Happy New Year, family.
Happy New Year.
Sorry, we're so early in the morning.
We're exhausted, aren't we?
No, ma'am.
You're not sleepy? I am. Happy New Year, family. They're saying Happy New Year, baby.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. We're in the bed. We're tired. I'm tired. You're not tired?
No more.
No more.
No.
Oh man, everybody's celebratory. We heard all these fireworks outside.
I couldn't sleep.
First, they were probably shooting guns or something.
But at least it wasn't as bad as it was when we lived in Louisville.
What do you mean?
We used to hear guns and explosions. We just heard firecrackers this time. Come on, Ra, you can get closer.
Firecracker.
So this is Amin Ra. Amin Ra is a boy. He just has long hair. He was named after the what?
Sun god.
The sun god.
Egypt.
The god of Egypt, sun god of Egypt. And he came to his mom when he was in his mother's womb and told her that his name was Amin Ra. So that's how we got his name. And this is Cherish Mi Amor. Mi Amor means my love in Spanish. She is Puerto Rican. Her mom is from Puerto Rico, her mom's family. So Happy New Year, family. We're hoping everybody's rejoicing and everybody's excited to come. What? You have what?
I have big teeth.
You have big teeth? Yeah, you got new teeth. So earlier today we did a podcast, late last night.
They shoot guns in Tennessee.
They shoot guns in Tennessee?
Wait, what?
Ooh, wait, who's that? Oh, Sister Harvetta Bay. Hi, Sister Harvetta Bay. Hi, Empress. Oh my God. In Kentucky, we heard explosions when we used to live there. It was frightening, actually. You would hear bombs, sound like bombs were going off. The dogs would be howling, the children would be crying. It was horrible. You felt like you were in Chirac or in the middle of a war zone. But anyway, family, we made it. I think the last 4 years were exhausting. I mean, it was good. Some people made a lot of money in 2024, after the shutdown or whatever, but it was exhausting. I lost a lot of people. My husband lost my husband 2022. I lost some very close friends since 2020. It was rough for us, but we made it. We made it, everybody.
I
miss Grandpa. I know. I'm hoarse. I was asleep. It was the what was it? The firecrackers that woke me up, and the grandkids, they were awake. So let's see what everybody's saying, babies. Oh, Happy New Year. Everybody's saying Happy New Year.
We heart you.
I still have 30 minutes here in Texas. Oh, hi, Ruben.
You in Texas?
To see you. He's in Texas. My grandson just left Texas. Yes, Ruben Rodriguez, Mr. Ruben Rodriguez is in Texas, but it's not New Year there yet.
Wait, what?
No.
Because they're behind the hour.
They're behind an hour. Okay.
But that's bad because they don't be able to celebrate New Year right now.
What came first, the chicken or the egg? I don't know. Mikal. Mikal Jordan.
Chicken.
Let's see. Have you heard that the Capitol building and the Empire State Building were hit by lightning? No.
Oh, in Louisiana.
Doug, somebody said that Capitol building, Empire State Building were hit by lightning. I guess so. I'm in Louisiana. They still have 2 hours to go in Louisiana.
Granny, you are the world's. It says you are the world's.
Where?
You are the world's greatest.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. We love you guys. You're awesome. Because of you, we are family. Where am I from? Somebody asked where am I? I am from. I was born and raised, in Cleveland, Ohio. I raised my children in Louisville, Kentucky. So I recently came from Louisville, Kentucky, but I am now in Jacksonville, Florida. We love it. We love the sunshine.
But Greg,
we love the people.
Time I checked San Antonio. It was 80 degrees.
Oh my God.
At like 5.
In the morning.
5
Somebody said
p.m.
Bruce said Nasara Jasara are kicked off. Oh wow. Thank you, Ron.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So you guys know Bruce, he's the guy that gives intel, and they're saying he and a couple people are saying that Nasara kicked off January the 1st right now, 2025. Some people are saying that we should be exchanging our Iraqi dinars the 1st of January. I'm not saying that's the case, but they're saying that Chance, I guess he does a chat, and some other people are saying that Iraq is done with everything. They're done with their auctions. They are releasing their lower denominations. Everything's ready. Their payment platforms are ready. They're ready to go digital. That news is coming out of Iraq. So hopefully it is time to exchange our Iraqi dinars sometime in January. So we know January the 20th is, what's January 20th? The inauguration of President Trump. We know that the Orthodox New Year is in January. We know that Pope Francis is supposed to open the last portal or the last Jubilee door. It's a ritual that they've been doing for years, since 1300, opening portals, opening doors, 5 portals, starting on Christmas Eve. But now we're calling those portals or those doors the Jubilee doors, the Jubilee portal. So we know that that's a ritual. They actually say it's a ritual. It's a good thing. They're letting us know that we are in the golden age, and that's something that President Trump keeps telling us every time he takes this stage. Now, as he's saying, the golden age for America starts now, and he is saying that we are in the golden age in America. So that's exciting. Basically, they're letting us know it's the Jubilee time. It's a time to celebrate. It's a time of debt jubilee, where you just eliminate all of the debt. And we're in the 50th Jubilee, Platinum Jubilee year, because biblically, every 7 years, you're supposed to forgive all the debt for all the people. You're supposed to let the slaves go, and you're supposed to let the land rest every 7 years. And then you're supposed to do 7 times 7. So every 7-year cycle, 7 times 7 is 49, but you're supposed to celebrate that 49th year on the 50th year. And that's called a Platinum Jubilee season. So that's biblical, that you're supposed to have a Jubilee every 7 years. I'm talking. And then on the 50th years, you're supposed to have a big celebration. You let the land rest, or a Sabbath rest for the land, and you let the slaves go free. So if you had an indentured servant, or you had a slave or a person that worked for you to pay off their debts, you're supposed to let them go and forgive their debt. And we're in that time, in that season right now. So this is a great time, family. We're excited. How y'all feel, babies? Good. And we didn't want to keep you on long. We just want to say Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Let's see what else. We're going to see what you guys are saying.
Wait, hold on. I thought, and the Vatican.
What happens at the Vatican?
Hold on,
Cherish those kids. Oh, and
That's
your name is
funny.
Cherish. Yay.
Wait, did she say my name?
Yeah. She said cherish those babies. They said cherish those babies. Please stop. Oh, I can't see, baby.
Looting stores.
Oh, somebody's looting stores? Oh my gosh. Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
24,
Yes.
25.
I'm in Jacksonville. It's warm in Jacksonville. It sure is.
But San Antonio is warmer because it was the 80 last time.
When? Come on, you get it.
80
It was 80 when you were just there.
2 days ago.
Wow. I didn't know it was warmer than here. Happy New Year. Somebody said from British Columbia, South Carolina. That is Silent Sam. Happy New Year, Silent Sam.
And also Grammy.
Hi, Sam. What's else? Somebody said, what's incoming, family? Bots incoming? Are bots in the chat? I would want to hear them more. The babies, read the
said
message
mythical.
and you will stop. I can't hear you. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Granny.
Hmm?
It said, let's
Stop brainwashing your kids. I brainwash my children often, and I'm not gonna stop. I brainwash them to be joyous. I brainwash them to be loving. I brainwash them to be kind. I brainwash them to eat well. I brainwash them to be
well.
He
I
eats
eat
well.
well.
Yeah.
I'm vegan.
He's vegan. He's vegan. He reads the ingredients of everything. Yeah, they say it's probably a bot in here. Jacksonville in the house. Hi, Jacksonville. That's Rico. Duval. We're in Duval County. That's what they say here. We love it. That's the chant. Greetings from Florida. Greetings, darling. Anybody have any New Year's resolutions? I know a lot of people don't believe in making resolutions or saying they're resolved to do something differently for the new year, but I'm going to lose a little more weight this year. I'm going to be more healthy. What else?
You need water to try avocado dip, please.
Avocado dip?
You dip chips in avocado.
Yeah, I tried it. You talking to me or the audience? Yeah, of course I've tried it.
In 3 to 4 months.
I like to I want to fast more this year. Oh, that's awesome, Bailey.
What's a fast?
Somebody said Joelle wants to make more money. Don't let others spoil your joy and positive attitude. Yes. Thank you. The only New Year resolution I kept was to not make another one. To not make another New Year's resolution.
Fireworks.
Put in the chat, family. Do you think we're going to see a currency revaluation this new year? How many of you believe or feel or know that you are going to be wealthy this year? Let us know. Somebody wants to pray and fast more. That's beautiful. Beautiful soul to you too. You got a sweet street. What's that? Yes, currency soon, Ian. I agree. Currency revaluation soon. We're going to go to the bank soon and cash in these currencies, these foreign currencies. Because on last year, the banks met globally to make sure that they were ready to receive tier 2 assets. When that happened, I actually did do a live, and the article actually said banks met globally to ensure that their appetite was ready or something like that to receive tier 2 assets. And the article went on to say that tier 2 assets were foreign reserve currencies. And then the article stated that the reason why banks were ready, to receive these tier 2 assets was because they needed the foreign currencies in order to stay afloat. And that this would make sure that banks won't go bankrupt. This was ensure the health of the banks, according to the articles. It's kind of hard to find them now, but I'll upload the video where I actually did a breaking live talking about how the banks were now ready to receive tier 2 assets. And in that live, I read the article line by line. Now I can't find the article, but at least I saved it in my live and you can see it. I pulled it up on the screen. So again, banks met globally to determine their appetite and their preparedness for tier 2 assets. And the article suggests, or actually emphatically states or asserts, that making sure that the banks are tier 2 asset compliant or ready is actually the second part of Basel III compliancy. So banks now have to all be Basel III compliant. That means that they have to recognize gold as a tier 1 asset. For layman in layman's terms, that means you have to recognize gold as money instead of recognizing it as only a commodity. And the second part of Basel III compliancy is that banks had to be prepared to receive tier 2 assets. So that means now all the De La Rue machines are updated, the staff is trained, protocols are in place. Banks have to now be not only compliant, but they have to be transparent. They no longer can steal your money. They have to be regulated, meaning that they no longer can take your money and invest in other things. The bankers and workers, they're the ones that have to sign non-disclosure agreements that they won't disclose what's going on in your account. Banks have to also be compliant in terms of being set up with a quantum financial system or quantum financial accounts. And the quantum financial accounts are accounts that only read your energy centers or your energy so that no one else can hack into your account. The quantum account is actually a gift that was given to us by the galactics or the interdimensional beings that are on the planet. One of the things that I talked about in my live earlier today when I said 2025 is going to be glorious is that new technology that has been kept secret is now going to be released. And President Trump made a commitment to release those patents. About, I think it's like almost 5,000 patents that have been kept from us. Well, one of those things in the patent is not only med beds and advanced technology. You hear these grandbabies, you can tell they're happy. But also the quantum financial system, which is a sentient system, is living, feeling, breathing, something that we've never experienced. Again, that can read your energy, and it also can detect the motives of the individual that's making purchases. And if our motives are not good and we don't have good intentions on what we intend to do with the money, we won't have access. We could lose access. We will lose access. For example, if you want to do something nefarious with children, you want to buy drugs. All right, that's enough. Then you could lose access to your money. So we have to make sure that we have benevolent motivations and motives with in terms of what we intend to do with that money that's going to be in our accounts. So again, those are quantum accounts. Some people say that they can not only read your intentions, but that some people say they can scan your heart. And a lot of people had issues with that, but I don't, because I have a good heart. I have a clean heart. I have good intentions. I have good motives. I only intend to use the money to take care of my family and to do humanitarian projects to help people in the community, in my country, and even in other countries. You know, if my wealth is going to be as much as I think it's going to be. So that's it. So 2025 is going to be glorious because we're going to have all the secret advanced technology release. Also, President Trump pledged to eliminate big government. So he's going to downsize the government. That's in alignment with the Supreme Court's ruling when the Supreme Court overturned the Chevron doctrine this summer. Basically, that meant that the Supreme Court was saying that these governmental agencies that were created, they have to be dismantled for the most part. Most of them have to be dismantled because they created rules, statutes, codes, and legalities and policies that were against us. And they just wanted to put a whole lot of taxes on us and a whole lot of rules on us to keep us from living free. For example, your HOAs or your home owners associations had stated that you can't grow food in your own yard. Well, in the state of Florida, DeSantis overturned that in Florida and said that homeowners associations cannot do that anymore. They can't tell you can't grow food in your own garden. Well, the Supreme Court also determined that by saying that they were overturning the Chevron doctrine. So what's that?
It says you're about to have a bad day.
Oh, that Robert Chandler, y'all ignore that person. We just ignore this person. I don't know why some people are negative, but we're positive over here. So the Chevron doctrine was overturned. So now these governmental agencies, and there are over 440. I have a list of 441 so-called government agencies. All government agencies are corporations or entities like the FBI, the CIA, the IRS, the EPA, and a whole bunch of other ones. That the DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles, that's under one of those departmental agencies. They were created to just put a whole bunch of rules on us, like saying you have to have a driver's license and you have to have car insurance, all that stuff that's unconstitutional. Well, before the Chevron doctrine was overturned, the doctrine said that these agencies could do anything, say anything they wanted because they were determined to be the experts. The CEOs of those agencies, though, was nothing but a bunch of nefarious bloodline families, people, and their colleagues that had incorporated themselves in order to rule over us. So before, they could do whatever they want, say whatever they want. And if we didn't abide by those statutes and codes, policies, or whatever, they could send their policy enforcers or police officers after us. They could also put fines and penalties on us. And if we go to court because we didn't pay those fines, or we tried to appeal anything, the judges would defer back to the agencies and say that those federal governmental agencies or entities were actually the experts, and we had to do whatever they said do. So they could arrest us, they could put us in jail if we didn't pay those fines and penalties. So because the courts would defer back to the experts, they would sometimes call the Chevron doctrine the Chevron deference. Well, this summer, the Supreme Court says, nope, no more. That's unconstitutional. And in fact, it's treasonous. They went further to say any judge that allowed that to happen and deferred back to those agencies committed treason as well. And any judge that knew of a judge that allowed that to happen committed misprision of treason. So now those agencies have been determined to be unconstitutional and treasonous. This is why Trump pledged to downsize the government. So those 441 agencies, governmental agencies, again, are not constitutional. They're not part of our republic. They will be dismantled. And the people at the top, the CEOs, have committed treason. So he pledged to downsize the government. He pledged to to champion XRP. XRP is the digital coin that runs on a Ripple ledger to help you make transactions. So Trump said that he's going to make America the XRP and Ripple capital of the world, of the planet, he said. So he said he's going to champion XRP and digital assets or digital coins. He is going to downsize the government. He's going to eliminate taxes. He said he is against income taxes, which is in alignment with the NESARA-GESARA laws. So there would be no more taxation of the people. And the way he's going to deal with the government paying off their, or making money or paying off their bills, is by putting tariffs on exported goods, which makes sense because before we even had income taxes, the way the government would make money was by putting tariffs on exported goods. Or is it exported goods or imported? Imported goods. Sorry about that. So anybody that wanted to make goods and services and do trade with America, like China makes everything. When they would import things, we would put tariffs. Now we're going to put tariffs on those items. The articles that I read suggest that that could be a bad thing if you put tariffs on other countries, because that could raise the price of those goods that are coming into our country. However, I see it as a good thing, because if you put tariffs on those items, then basically there will be an incentive for us not to do business with China and those other countries, and instead invite all of those industries that were here based at home in Detroit, in Chicago, in Cleveland, and Pittsburgh, and all the places that were here. We can now entice them to come back home. So President Trump will, or whoever's in charge, because Trump will only be in charge for a short time. He will have to step down at some point. He is the last president of the United States Incorporated. Some people think he's the president of the Republic. I'm not so sure of that. But he is the last president because he is the president of he is the transitional president, taking us from the corporation or the United States Incorporated over into the Republic. And now we're calling the Republic the re-inhabited Republic, because a lot of people didn't even know that we had a lawful government before those bloodline families took over. So President Trump, again, is the interim president, and he's the go-between between the old guard and the new guard, or our new re-inhabited or re-established republic of this dynasty that was already here, being back online. Speaking of the re-inhabited republic, we're going to have Chief Pontiac, also known as Rod Hayes, to come on the show Thursday night. I had said 6 o'clock. It'll probably be 8 o'clock, somewhere like that, to give everybody a time to come in. But Thursday night, he's going to talk about how we know the republic has been restored and what's going on behind the scenes to reestablish the dynasty that was here, or the government, I should say, that was here before the bloodline families coalesced against the dynasty that was here and enslaved the people and created their own central bank, the Federal Reserve central banking system. So he's going to talk about how we know all of that is defunct, dissolved, bankrupt, etc., and how we, the people, have been liberated and been restored, have had our government restored. So getting back to President Trump, he's going to champion XRP, makes this the Ripple XRP capital of the planet, he said. Downsize the government, eliminate state taxes, and there were some other things he was going to do. Oh, release secret technology and patents that have been kept from we the people. One of those things that's going to be released is med beds, and there are articles out that assert that the med beds have actually already been released, and some of them are already in the hospitals. So this is exciting because the med beds are these beds or advanced technology that you can lay in, and it will cure all the ailments in your body. You can regrow limbs, you can regrow your teeth, your organs will be regenerated, your cells will be regenerated, and some people say you can actually age regress in the med beds. So that's what some say, that you'll age regress in the med beds, but there is even more advanced technology that will allow us to go back in age, I think, as far back as 25 years or more. So a lot of people are excited about what is to come, family, and 2025 will kick that off because we're in a new Jubilee year. So I think that's about it, family. A lot is happening in America. More than 45 states have reclaimed silver and gold as money. So the state legislators removed the state sales taxes from precious metals, which means that now precious metals, silver and gold, can no longer be seen and used and deemed as a commodity or as a collector's item, but now silver and gold has to be used as a money. The states were able to do that because the republic has been restored. According to our republic, all states operate as their own entity, they're sovereign, and they are countries. That's why you hear news and information coming out about us annexing or bringing in, Canada, the Caribbean islands, all that, because our original republic included Canada, the Caribbean islands, and other countries actually that are a part of Morocco or Al-Marak or Amorica, which is the dynasty that was here, or the nation that was here before the bloodline families usurped authority over our nation. Speaking of our nation, when you look at the flag that was here before, it is a red flag with a green 5-pointed star. That also is reminiscent of the Pope opening up 5 portals, 5 doors that he called the Jubilee doors, opening up and releasing the property that belonged to the people that are here, the indigenous peoples that are here, and all the people that we brought in and annexed in, or how do you say, brought it or grafted into the family and an American family. All of those people we brought here, such as the Europeans that came here, we have treaties with them called the Treaty of Peace and Friendship and other treaties. All of that will be acknowledged now that the dynasty has been restored. Some people don't like calling it the dynasty. I will say that the republic has been restored. The government has been restored. So you have a 5-pointed star, the green 5-pointed star on the red flag, which was hanging in the White House right along with the red, white, and blue flag, because the red, white, and blue flag is actually a banner of trade and commerce that belongs to the Europeans that came here, that formed their own nation, their own 13 colonies. This is why Obama said it and Trump said it before, that Morocco was the first nation to recognize us as our own nation, saying that Morocco, the people here, the republic that was here, the indigenous, autogenous, aboriginal people that were here, and their government acknowledged the Europeans that came here as their own nation. They had their own nation, they had their own rules, they had their own laws. And those were honored and respected. And the American dynasty that was here, Morocco, Turtle Island, also called Northwest Africa, the North Gate, the Northwest Gate, whatever you want to call it, as it relates to the government that was here before, again, had their own flag, their own government, their constitution for the republic, which was actually created by the Aboriginal, copper-colored people, but indigenous peoples that were here. And that's why people say that the Constitution was styled after the Iroquois Federation, or Iroquois peoples, because they were letting you know that there was a dynasty here already. So those are some of the things that Chief Rod Hayes, also known as Chief Pontiac, has been talking about with me, and he will come on Thursday night to tell you more about that. And then we'll have other people to come on to talk about what the republic looks like, what the original constitution looked like, and how we know that that has been restored. So we're moving into the golden era, or as Trump says, the golden era is here. Now, President Trump is a president that is a figurehead, and being actually used to usher in the season, because he, again, is the transitional figurehead ushering us back into the republic from the old guard. Because actually what happened was that the United States Incorporated, the group of bloodline families that took power from, or usurped authority from, the republic that was here, and incorporated themselves in Delaware in 1871 and created their own constitution called the Constitution of the United States Incorporated, and incorporated as a nonprofit religious organization with the Pope as the head. That's why it was religious. That entity created their own banking system called the Central Bank of the Federal Reserve Central Banking System, which is not federal. It has nothing to do with our republic. That entity, the United States Incorporated, was running side by side with the republic for America. The republic so you had two governments that were actually operating side by side, and two constitutions, the constitutions of Nefarious, the United States Incorporated, and on the other side, the Constitution for the republic, running simultaneously. The republic never went anywhere. The Constitution never went anywhere. And people who knew how to operate in their sovereign capacity were going by the republic. They didn't vote because the original Americans, we weren't never supposed to vote. We're not the United States Incorporated. Citizens can vote. Citizens are slaves, and they had us calling ourselves citizens, and they had us voting, but we're not even supposed to vote for the people in the United States Incorporated. So people that knew that operated in their sovereign capacity, unfortunately, under the old system, they had to file certain paperwork, and they had to get it right. They weren't sovereign citizens, because you can't be sovereign and a citizen. Those are oxymorons. You're either a citizen, a slave of the United States Incorporated, or you're sovereign, you're free, a free person on the land. The people that knew how to operate in their sovereign capacity filed certain paperwork to put the United States Incorporation on notice. They got access to their social security. They got access and control over the social security number. They got control over their straw man. They got control over their accounts. You talk about like their trust, their TDA accounts. They didn't vote. They didn't even have to recognize the United States Incorporated. They couldn't get pulled over. They couldn't get fines and penalties because you had to be a slave or a citizen to do so. There are people literally that knew how to operate because they understood and overstood that the republic had its own way of doing things, and it was still operating. So again, there were two governments operating side by side. That's why you saw both flags. The flag of trade and commerce that people think is the flag for America. The autonomous indigenous peoples that were here, and even the people that have internet problems, that our republic is being restored, and we're all going to be treated in fairness and according to our Constitution, whether you're autonomous, indigenous or not, as long as the people who are on this land can respect the Constitution for the republic and can respect all of the rules And the 5 principles of the Moroccans or Al Marak, they'll be able to stay here. Anybody that is not in agreement with how things are according to the Republic, they can, take the liberty to go home. And as a matter of fact, in order to receive the GESARA benefits, the Global Economic Security and Reformation Act benefits, everybody has to go back to their home country. And that is one way we will mitigate the problem with the illegal aliens that are over here. They'll have to go back to their countries. And that's a good thing, because many of them would love to stay in their countries if they have the sufficient opportunities. But what they're not going to do is milk the benefits of the nation here. And what they're not going to continue is steal our identity, steal our inheritance, take vote unlawfully. That's not going to happen anymore. Not on our watch. Too many of us are awake. Too many of us know who we are. Too many of us recognize our republic. Too many of us know that this land was supposed to be passed down to the descendants of the autogenous people that have ascended to other realms. And in fact, many of those ancestors have returned. Many of the interdimensional beings with whom we are related have returned. And they're going to make sure that the nefarious interdimensional beings that were here to cause division, to absorb the energy and the blood and the organs of the people that were here, the benevolents are here to make sure that they have been exited off this planet through the portals, and the portals shut. This is why a lot of CEOs had to be arrested. This is why Congress had to be arrested. Presidents had to be arrested, because a lot of them were not even human, or that it was their human hybrids that had taken on those positions, controlling governmental agencies, banks, corporations, corporate entities. But now the time has come that they are being dismantled. That's why last year, more than 400 corporations filed bankruptcy. That's why banks collapsed and closed, because a lot of them were doing nefarious things, and they had to go. Those entities that were ruling over governmental agencies, corporations, and banks were arrested and their assets frozen. And this is why President Trump created Executive Order 13818 that said any entity or person that committed crimes against humanity will have their assets frozen. So a lot of these people have been shipped off to Gitmo. Or I always say Guantanamo. Is it Guantanamo or Guantanamo? Mono or Namo? I can't remember. But Gitmo, suffice it to say. What is it? Guantanamo Bay. People say I always say it wrong. You gonna make sure you say it right? So yeah, they've already been dealt with, family. A lot of athletes have been dealt with, a lot of celebrities, because a lot of people that were reporting in the mainstream media, a lot of politicians, because many of them were not human. And the ones that were human were parts of bloodline families that were put in place to either create rules, statutes, and codes, or to govern us, or to trick us and lie to us, like in the media, mainstream media, or to influence us. And that's what celebrities were used for. But notice, you don't see a lot of celebrities anymore. And if you do see them, they look poor. They're on YouTube now trying to make money. They're on social media now trying to compete with we the people for money. Now they're coming out and telling you that they don't even have a lot of money, because being a puppet means that the deep state, the cabal, the bloodline families that used you to influence the people, to trick the people, to lie to the people, they even controlled your money. They control how much those celebrities made, and they can take it back whenever they wanted to. They will also force them to sacrifice family members. But now you don't see celebrities making movies. You don't see them making music. And again, they're competing on social media with the rest of us. If they haven't already left the country or been arrested or been dealt with, at Gitmo. So we have ushered in a new season. And I have to say, family, we're responsible for helping to usher in this joyous, amazing, wonderful new golden age, because we've been praying. We said we had enough, or we've been commanding that this stops. We've been commanding that our wealth comes in. We've been commanding that our prosperity be released. We've been seeking out our ancestors and calling out to them, commanding that they come and help us out. And so now we're here. We've been ushering in this season by focusing on positive things and imagining how wonderful it's going to be wealthy, to be prosperous, to be joyous, to have peace on earth, to have planetary peace. We've ushered that in, family. I know I've helped in that charge by making sure that I raise the vibrations, right, of all of the people that listen to me. I always focus on the good part of the news. Even if we have to bring out bad news, we always say, look for the opportunity, look for the good. Remember that the ancestors have come back, that the Creator is here to liberate us. I always say, keep your vibrations raised, keep your emotions in check, and know that the Creator intends for us to be prosperous, that you, being God beings, can command these things into your reality, because whatsoever you think about and focus on is what multiplies. When you think about and focus on joy, when you think about and focus on purity, when you think about and focus on righteousness, when you think about and focus on prosperity, when you think about and focus on global peace, that is what manifests in your reality on your timeline. This is what the deep state did not want us to do. So they poisoned us. They kept us dumbed down by putting things in our atmosphere, spraying stuff in the air. They put poisons in our food. They try to poison our mind by putting in programs of racism and sexism and transformation. Y'all know that trans word. All the stuff to confuse us, all this chaos, division through religious affiliations, causing division. If maybe you were a Christian and trying to make you hate Muslims by blaming the explosion of the towers on our Muslim brothers and sisters, trying to cause hate between the so-called religious factions, political division, all that. Also the deep state, the cabal, the bloodline families that were over governments and entertainment and politics and all that would create movies like slavery movies and movies with violence, gun violence, and rape and actual say assault. Yeah, actual say assault. Trying to speak pig Latin. Or SA. They would have movies with all of that, with gore and blood and all of that, because watching that through your eye portal would bring down your vibrations. You would actually become terrorized by watching those movies, or vibrating at your lowest chakra about watching a bunch of XA on TV. And some of those things that you see, they will say, oh, it's just a movie, it's fake. But when you talk to people like John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr., also known as David Quigley, whom I've interviewed many times, he told you in his book, Stolen Identity, that a lot of that stuff that they said that was staged was true. For example, stage on set. For example, David Quigley, also known as John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr., told us in his book and on our interview that there was a time when he was, as a child, taken because he was in witness protection. And even a witness protection program is run by a bunch of thugs, because the cabal, they're all thugs. They're all evil, wicked, okay? They would force him to do things, force him to take drugs. A lot of celebrities grape them, anal penetration, beat them, cut them, force them to do all type of things, and then waterboard them, drinking a bunch of water till they pass out, taking bad drugs, manipulating them through MK Ultra mind control. But David Quigley, whose real name is John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr., one time after being sexually assaulted and beaten till he passed out, had they put some type of covering over his head, took him to an undisclosed location where he had no idea where he was because he was drugged, and put him in a bathtub, and he was passed out. And when he woke up, he was being beaten. Well, when they took this thing off of his head, he was being beaten, according to his account, by Denzel Washington. And when he came to and realized what was happening, he was a part of a movie scene, unbeknownst to him, against his will. So it looked in a movie like this was something staged and it wasn't real, but he was literally getting the crap beaten out of him and drugged. Now, a lot of celebrities who have lived through things like that have told us that they were drugged, told us that they were forced to do certain things and that it was recorded, told us that they were blackmailed, drugged, and forced to perform certain acts, sexual acts on children, on each other, participating in freak offs and all that. Some of them were drugged when they did it, some of them weren't. But if you didn't do it, you would have all your assets taken from you. You would have family members disappear on you. This stuff was heinous, family. So when we watched that through our eye portal, whether it was real or staged like a false flag event, it will lower our vibrations. We couldn't focus on ascending to our God selves. It was hard to focus on accessing different areas of our brain. Like we used to be able to fly. We don't know how to do that anymore. The telemeters that are in our bodies that have been cut off by nefarious entities that came here to cut off our telemeters so that we couldn't expand to our God self, so we can ascend in consciousness, now could not regenerate or grow because of what they did, but also because of our vibrations being lowered. So you will be terrorized by watching this on TV, terrorized when your children will come up missing, terrorized when you hear stories like Lacey Peterson's husband unalived her, and then all these people we thought was just nobodies coming up so-called nobodies, and people we never heard of coming up missing or being unalived, men classified as Black being unalived. When you hear all that stuff constantly, see slavery movies all the time, hear critical race theory all the time, trying to make our Caucasian brothers and sisters feel guilty because allegedly their great-grandparents enslaved people. And some of it was true, some of it was not. But why do you have to keep perpetuating that year after year, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a year on the television or through the curriculum? That brought your vibrations down. And if you were a person of color or classified as Black, you stayed perpetually in a low vibrational field, because all you saw on television when it came to you was your woman being a bed wench or a whore while they put up other women as a wife. Or you see television programs where the men classified as Black was always unaliving each other and the children going amok. If you see that all the time, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It actually manifests because whatever you think about and focus on manifests. It multiplies in your life, on your timeline. It becomes your reality. So that brought down our vibrational frequencies, and those entities that controlled this whole planet, most of whom were not human, along with these empty seeders, fed off of that. Because when you're going through trauma and emotional pain and living it vicariously through the television for what you allow into your portal, watching pornography too, that lowers your vibration. Hearing a bunch of cussing, a bunch of vulgarity, that's another portal. Your ear, taking in a bunch of energies through your sexual organs, all of that. Eating low vibrational foods, all that will cause us to emit a psychic energy called loosh. That psychic energy is what these beings fed off of. They ate it like food, let alone what they did to our children and our organs. And they particularly like the organs of people that had a lot of carbon, highly melanated people, whether you're, indigenous, autogenous, or just dark. You have a lot of carbon in your body, because those organs are filled with the nutrients and a carbon that these entities preferred because they lived off of them. And that's why you had the unaliving of people in Louisiana, Chicago, through weather manipulation like Hurricane Katrina, like tornadoes. Also, you had them unalive certain places like big cities where there were a high population of melanated people, like Chicago, Cleveland, Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio, Detroit, Michigan, because they were trying to kill out or unalive those bloodline families that were the original autogenous people here. And they were trying to steal their organs and their blood. This is documented. We know this. That's another reason why they kept fighting with Haiti. Haiti was one of those nations that actually fought hard against the French, and they were one of the only peoples that won against colonization. So the colonizers kept trying to make them pay for it. That's why they called it Haiti, like Hades, like hell. They were being slit with their tongue, smart aleck. That's why they cause a lot of problems over there, and you have a lot of poverty there. You have a lot of severe poverty in developing nations, which are heavily melanated people that populate those areas. Don't get me wrong, they're against everybody, but they figured that if they can completely kill out or do away with the Aboriginal autogenous people on the planet, then the ones that remain could become their slaves. And then they were going to get rid of them too. So they would suppress the autogenous indigenous peoples on the planet, especially the heavily carbonated ones first. And then after they had taken them out and done as much, terrorism and all everything they could to them or to us, then they would come after the ones, the Europeans and the other ones that were actually that came from the original man, original woman. And they were just going to come after all of us. So that's why they tried to divide all of us, the so-called racists on this planet, because if they can divide and conquer the autogenous people, then they can then go after everybody. And then they will become the rulers over just a small population. That's why Bill Gates said at the Bilderberg Depopulation Conference in 2012 that the best way to get rid of these people, we have almost 9 billion people on the planet, the best way to get rid of them is through inoculation, through vaccines. And they've been doing that, especially in Africa, all over the world, but especially in Africa. And he literally said, we got to get rid of the population in Africa. The planet, yes, but in Africa and with the autogenous indigenous peoples. I heard his conference at the Bilderberg Depopulation Conference since 2012. I had come from California. I don't know why or how the ancestors led me to this conference online, and I heard him say it out of his mouth in 2012. So, but they've been doing that for a long time. And you can even look at Newt Gingrich's dissertation, which is his research that you have to do to get a PhD. He said that you needed colonization in the Congo, and he supported it. Newt Gingrich. I know because I read his dissertation. It was actually somebody from Africa who was a professor at the University of Louisville, who was a good friend of my family, who told me about Newt Gingrich's dissertation because I was working on my research for my PhD, my doctoral degree in education and counseling psychology. And she just mentioned it. And she was like, oh, he was a racist, you know what? I was like, what? So she was like, if Newt Gingrich she called him a dumb behind, can say those evil, wicked things and write that less than stellar paper and pass and get his dissertation and, pass his dissertation and pass his comprehensive exams and get a PhD. Congolese people. By the way, did you hear that the Congo was the richest place, one of the richest places on the continent of Africa? Son?
I've heard that.
Yeah.
I've heard something like that because of some of the minerals that they use for glasses.
Yeah, some of the minerals that they use, I think also cobalt that we use on our phones, a lot of minerals and things that we use here in America come from the Congo, which is why they kept it suppressed and kept the children working in the mines and, doing slave labor, not only in the Congo, but also in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, which is why those three countries kicked the French off their land. So Vladimir Putin actually is the one that told people start using your own local currencies and stop trading with the dollar. He said that in 2022, and he kicked it off by using his own Russian ruble for trade when Biden had put sanctions on him. So once he told the BRICS Union, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, to start using your own local currencies, he said, follow after me. That's why his Russian ruble became the strongest performing currency in 2022. He said, follow after me. Then he inspired not only BRICS to do it, but all those nations that were part of BRICS, that Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa coalition. But he also said all the African nations, you should do the same thing. And that's when Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali said, yeah, we're going to use our own currency. And they kicked off or expelled the French from their land, and they created their own military alliance. And that decision that those three nations did, kicking off the French because the French colonized them, actually caused a domino effect in France, and it caused an economic crisis in France because now the French government, not to be confused with the French people, the government, the Macron, the nefarious people that had taken over France, had been extrapolating or taking the resources from African countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, and using slave labor, the child slave labor, to extract the resources from those lands in Africa. Well, they're not the only ones that did that, but that caused a problem with France's economy. And so the people in France did a no confidence vote. Thank you, Chief Pontiac is sending me a message. They did a no confidence vote in France and got rid of the whole French parliament. They got rid of the Minister of Finance and his whole administration, and they pressured Macron to step down. Macron did say, I'm not going anywhere because my term isn't up to 2027. But according to the last article that I read, he was supposed to step down by December of 2024. So we'll see if that happens. But again, the reason why the France government had pressure on them is because now they no longer could extrapolate or take the resources from African nations. What is the name of that conference? Is it the Belgium conference? What is the name of that conference where the Europeans decided to divide Africa? Berlin Conference. Thank you. The Berlin Conference, which is established, I want to say, might have been the 1800s. Double check. Thank you. The Berlin Conference was a time when European colonizers got together and decided how they would divide up the continent of Africa. Some parts of Africa went to Belgium, some went to France, some went to Spain, some went to Europe. So they just said, you know what, we're struggling as a nation, as a group of people, as Europeans, and we need to maintain our livelihood and have some type of resources. So instead of doing it on our own, what we're going to do is we're going to divide the continent of Africa for ourselves. We're going to enslave the people. We're going to steal their identity. We're going to force our language upon them and our religion on them. We're going to desolate their lands and cause famines over there. We're going to inoculate them with our vaccine bays. Got to be careful, I'm on YouTube. With our you-know-whats. I already said it. So if I get a strike, you know why. And we're going to make it hard for them and cause them to suffer so that we can enrich ourselves. Now, this is most likely unbeknownst to the people, the everyday people in France, in the European nations, and Belgium. The Dutch also colonized a part of Africa, Spanish. The people didn't have a say in that. The governments did that. The bloodline families that were in control. Well, now those African nations are expelling the people from the continent. Now, let's talk about America, because nobody wants to talk about America. The same thing happened. We know that happened, but we're not talking about how a lot of those entities and their human hybrids will have to leave this place because they extrapolated and stole the identity of the autogenous indigenous peoples here. Now, a lot of people don't have a problem when they think about, oh yeah, we did the Native Americans so wrong. We took land from them. They're the first people, but that's not even the truth. The so-called Native Americans crossed over here through the Bering Strait from Asia. They're not the autogenous people here. The autogenous people here are the copper-colored races found here by Christopher Columbus. That's why the 1828 Webster's definition says that they're the copper-colored people. The definition of American are the copper-colored races found here by Christopher Columbus, but now applied to Europeans because some of the Europeans that came here, many of them were welcome here. They had their own treaties. We had alliances between us, but then you had a group of them that were used by some of the Moors that came here and brought them here. And they coalesced together to take over the empire here, to steal the identity of the autogenous people here, to change their classification from indigenous to colored, to Negro, to Black, see where I'm going, and now calling us African Americans when we are the autogenous, indigenous, original Americans that from whom they stole an identity, our property, the land, the resources. Then allow everybody and their mama to come over here, take the resources, take jobs, as well as the Native Americans, some of whom we do have treaties with and made it with, because we love to make love. Everybody does make love. When you make love, you don't make war, right? Allowing them to take on our identities and allowing some Europeans to call themselves $5 Indians by signing themselves up on the Doll Rolls and calling themselves indigenous, some of whom had no indigenous blood, so that they can get the resources from the land and so that they can take on identities and they can have governmental benefits and own casinos. And that's why Trump said years ago, they sure don't look like Indians to me, because he knew a lot of them had not an inch or a drop of Indian blood or indigenous autogenous blood, Aboriginal AB blood. So the people, the negative energies that are here, no matter what your complexion look like or how much carbon or melanin you do have or lack or whatever, whether you're a Moor or whether you're somebody else, or whether you come from another country and you're enjoying the wealth without being lawfully here or rightfully here, those people have to be expelled. They have to go because they came here with bad intentions and or they were allowed to come through the borders in order to further enslave the Americans that were here and their European allies that were here, that were allowed to come here and do business. So all of these, what they call them, illegal aliens or unlawful immigrants, have to go back. And the thing about it is a lot of people will come to this nation and spit on the identity of the everyday American here. Now, every so-called everyday American some of them didn't have a problem with, and neither did the Aboriginal people have a problem with some people coming from other countries. But we do recognize that a lot of them didn't respect us. A lot of Arabs don't respect us. A lot of Indians don't respect us. A lot of the Asian people that are here doing business lawfully and not unlawfully, they don't have respect for the so-called Black people, copper-colored races. As a matter of fact, they will put their business in your neighborhood, put the prices up high, and treat you like a slave when you walk in their places and look down upon you, treat you badly. Oh, we know. Talk about you. Oh, we know. Run drugs through your community. I have a lot of people from the Middle Eastern region that I know, some of whom are my friends, especially some of the women. But we do know that some of them, those gas stations, are running drugs out of them. Some of those stores, those that look like they're just, little storefront stores with a little gas station, and have a bunch of junk food that get money from the government because they say they're providing food in the food desert when they're really just providing chips and cookies and cheap old gas. A lot of them are running drugs out of there. That's why you see police officers and cars parked in front of a lot of those stores, restaurants, not the restaurants per se, but gas stations, because many of them are running drugs out there. And those policy enforcers or police officers are protecting those places, while these storefronts and these gas stations are running drugs and putting drugs in a community classified as Black. See, when you live in, I never as an adult lived in a so-called Black community until 2018. I was like, well, it's a revitalized area. Let me go. I can be near, some people I know. Worst mistake in my life, because the gun violence was horrible. It was crazy in Louisville, Kentucky. Even though it was a revitalized place, the food that was in the stores was the food that was old bread. I don't eat meats, but old meats, vegetables that were rotting. It was horrible. Police officers that didn't really do their jobs, that was helping to run drugs and guns in the community. You got to see it though, walking over bodies. Couldn't let my grandchildren go out, even in the revitalized neighborhoods. We had to establish our own watch, which put my sons in jeopardy because we didn't believe in that no snitching crap. We were like, you do something over here, we gonna deal with you first, then we gonna call the police. And that put us in a very bad position. However, we wasn't afraid. Well, we trembled. I was like, well, we gotta come out blazing, gotta do what you gotta do. And, we would say, yep, I saw it. But what I'm telling you is a lot of those gas stations that were there that were controlled by people that are not from America, that were funded by loans. And they would tell me that, especially the men, because all men love beautiful women and they run their mouths if they think they can sleep with you. They would tell me, well, we get loans and they're low interest or no interest loans for a 5-year period. And we get governmental grants to have businesses in your community. And then we'll bring somebody else here from our country to take on the business in their name with no interest. And after that 5 years is up, we'll bring another person. And then when that 5 years up, we'll bring another person and we enrich ourselves. And then we take that money and we put money into our country. Now, while on the other hand, I understand people are looking for opportunities and they're happy to be here, but a lot of them here couldn't give a care less about your community, your plight, your well-being, your health. In fact, most of them were told not to even befriend people that look like me, but the men would try to sleep with me. And that's why they always tell you that when you allow men to come into your country, it's an act of war. Because they're not only absorbing the resources and using the resources to enrich themselves and sending the money home to enrich their nation, but they're coming for your women and children. Now, if you don't think that's an act of war, to bring military-age men and older, men between the ages of 16 and maybe 40, 45, allow them to have guns, drugs, money, and businesses, they're going to come for the women because women are hypergamous by nature and they have to mate with somebody. But if the government that's ruling over your land can imprison your men and have school to prison pipelines, put drugs and guns in the community, you see how they do? Have all the men put in prison. And I'm not letting the men off because it's a choice. They don't have to do it. You choose to live righteously. You choose to take care of your wife. You choose to take care of your children. You choose to control your penis and stop flinging it around and act like you ain't got no sense. You choose to be faithful. You choose to be righteous. You choose to be a leader. You choose to operate in dignity and integrity as a man. That's a choice. Or you can choose drugs, or you can choose to operate in the underground economy. But we do understand and overstand how governmental programs kept you out of the house. But you can choose to walk out of the house. And likewise, as a woman, you can choose to keep your husband. You can choose to keep your legs crossed. You can choose to be honorable and faithful to your husband. You can choose not to do drugs. You can choose to take care of your children. You can choose to love your man. You can choose to live righteously. It's all about choices. However, we know how the deep state is. We know their programming runs deep. Okay? If you can get the man out the house, then the woman doesn't have a covering. She's not protected, and she's going to look elsewhere for a come up, or she's going to look for somebody to mate with. And if the only man that's there for her to mate with is a colonizer or somebody that doesn't love her people or her land or her nation, and he's just trying to mate with somebody because his wife is in his home country, or because he's polygamous by nature, then what happens? You see the art of war playing out, because now he can take the wife and the children for himself. He can take the resources, the money, the wealth, and take it back to his home country. Because a lot of these people that come here, some of them really do try to enrich themselves and do right. But a lot of them don't even pour right back into the communities in which they live. And if they do so, is not at the same rate to which of the money that they send abroad. And then they just, extrapolate the resources, and then they go back to wherever they come from and live like kings and queens and give a darn tootin' about the Americans that are here. And they're told to stay away from the autogenous copper-colored people, the original Americans called Black. And as a matter of fact, working in higher education, I know the students that come here are told, don't speak to them, don't talk to them, but you can look for the big booty BITCHs. And when they come off the boats and off the ship and off the plane, they say, we're the big booty hoes. I know, because I worked on a college campus. And we have to take responsibility and accountability for that, because we want to call ourselves a boss B, a boss chick, a HOE, a 304, and we want to behave like a common whore. So when you behave like and dress like a common whore, they're going to treat you like that. When we behave and act like what we see on the television, then that's what people would treat us like. So we all have to take responsibility and accountability for what we allow in our homes and in our communities. I'm not letting anybody off the hook. And because we are so in love with the celebrities who are paid to program us, when they come into our cities and put drugs in our cities, I know what I'm talking about. Because when you know what the Louisville, Kentucky biggest drug ring was called, you know that it was funded by a celebrity who called Louisville his second home. Okay? He was popular. They loved him. Put him on television all the time. We're so in love with the celebrities that when they put drugs in our communities, our young men and our older men and some of the women push those drugs. I saw it with my own eyes. Cleveland, Ohio. Ukrainian mafia runs Cleveland. You can look that up. The mainstream will tell you that. Type right now, the Ukrainian mafia owns downtown Cleveland. They'll tell you how much of Cleveland they own. Not only downtown Cleveland, but most of the real estate, prime real estate. The CCP own most of the prime real estate in Cleveland and Louisville, Kentucky. There was a PNC whole bank and mall that was confiscated by the feds in Louisville, Kentucky in 2020, because it was determined that that bank and that whole mall was owned by the Chinese Communist Party and the Ukrainian mafia. In fact, in 2020, 10,000 automatic weapon parts that was funded and created by the Chinese Communist Party was confiscated at the Louisville airport in 2020 during all those riots when George Floyd allegedly got eliminated and Breonna Taylor. Why were 10,000 automatic weapon parts found and confiscated at the Louisville airport during all those riots and so-called peaceful protests that were not everything but peaceful, because it was all staged by Antifa and Black Lives Matter. And all they did was destroy Louisville, Kentucky. To this day, 4 years later, more than 50% of downtown Louisville is not even operating because of the destruction that Black Lives Matter and Antifa did, and all the ignoramuses that hopped on board to tear up their own city. So all I'm saying is we all have to take accountability for what we have allowed. But this has been an act of war. And everybody that caused war or participated in war must go. We command you to leave. And thankfully, we have programs and bills or laws put in place that will entice people that shouldn't be here to leave. Now, we're not talking about people that want to be here, that desire to be here, that love America, that love what we stand for, that love the people here, that can operate in a sovereign capacity, like they have some sense, and can operate in peace and honor the treaties and live by the 5 principles of the Moorish government. They will be allowed to stay for the most part. But the ones that are here that try to steal the identity of the people and the resources and mistreat the people here, they won't be welcome. And so Nasara and Jassara will encourage them to receive their own benefits at home, which is a good thing because they can build up their own lands. Now, usually when people talk about it, they're like, yeah, you get to go home and you get to build up your land. That's a good thing. And I'm with you. I think that's wonderful. But I have a personal vendetta against those who mistreat the American people. I have a personal problem with the fact that they could come here, be undocumented, and some of them even documented, and take the resources, the land, get grants, loans, monies, houses. They don't even have to take out a mortgage, some of them. And the ones that do, they don't even have to have a credit line. All they have to do is say that they went to college and bring a transcript. It doesn't matter if it's a community college and they took 3 classes, they will have no interest or low interest loans to own a home in the prime areas of certain cities. You can be an undocumented person here in America and get a law degree. Yes, you can go to law school, especially in California. You can be an undocumented student. I know because I worked in higher education on many college campuses. We had undocumented student offices. You can be an undocumented student and have your whole college education paid for. You can go to medical school. You can go to law school. You can go to business school. You can have dorms. You can have money to help support you in terms of a stipend to live off of. Oh, you got grants. You got tutoring privileges, all that. Okay. Now, I know they had affirmative action that allowed that too for people classified as Black. And that was allegedly to make up for the racist practices that many institutions put in place in order to keep the people classified as Black suppressed. And the reason why the deep state did this is because the so-called Black people here were prisoners of war. And they weren't prisoners of war by all Europeans. It's a group of bloodline families that enslaved the Aboriginal autochthonous people here and made us prisoners of war. That's why a lot of us don't know our bloodline, who we are. We don't know about the lands that we own, but you can find that out by going to certain places and find out what lands your ancestors actually owned here. A lot of us don't know that the Smithsonian took over or stole our artifacts as being the autochthonous copper color Aboriginal peoples, indigenous peoples here, and put our artifacts hidden in the Smithsonian Institute. Not only were many of them stolen and put in the Vatican, but the Smithsonian Institute. And then they lied to you and told you came here from some slave ships and crossed the transatlantic slave with the transatlantic slave trade. I'm not saying that didn't happen. I'm saying the story as we were told, it didn't happen. All of us didn't come from there. Most of us were already here in South America, Central America, North America, Canada, the Caribbean islands, and they try to hide it. You even see dark people in Asia, dark people all over the planet. Some people say, why does it matter? It matters because they lied and they hide them. Hollywood won't show that we are a beautiful rainbow of people all over this planet. But thankfully, we're going to learn to live in harmony and peace. But first, justice has to be served. Justice has to be served all across the planet. That's why people are being arrested. That's why celebrities have disappeared. That's why they said they're leaving the country if Trump becomes president. Because really what they meant is that justice is here, and we can no longer lie to any of the people and masquerade as human. We can no longer manipulate and control your mind. Freemasonry. Oh yeah, a lot of Freemasons actually controlled the governments, and secret societies were running the world. Somebody says religion doesn't belong here. I heard that. And I see you all talking to each other. Yes, a lot of people that are here are descendants of kings and queens. And we're kings and queens. Do you know why they called Trump a king? Because he has access, how you say it? Access to his estate. Some people say that he also, depending on what story you read, he or people like him not only access his estate, but others as well. Depends on which account you believe. But they called him a king because he has access to his estate. When you gain access to your estate, family, you can operate and will operate as a king and queen because you will be in control of your estate. You all have a trust attached to your birth certificate bond. And you can also create trust. So when you get those NESARA benefits, because every person on the planet will receive benefits, and this is our money that's attached to our birth certificate bond that was securitized and traded on the New York Stock Exchange, unbeknownst to us, accruing interest, earning money. Once you get access to that money, which you will, it might be by way of a universal basic income, but you will receive thousands of dollars per month. Be wise, be a good steward of that money and put it in a trust. A trust controls and owns and houses or holds your assets, and you control the trust. The trust holds and controls the assets, and you control the trust. Put them in trust. And any assets that you acquire, whether it's digital assets, gold and silver, anything that you acquire, a home, land, what else are businesses, put them in trust, an automobile, pay it off, put it in a trust. Credit will go away. You won't have to get credit. You won't have to get a mortgage loan. All that's going to be done away with this year in 2025, during the year of Jubilee. Put everything in trust, and that becomes your estate, and you control all of the things that you own that are in your care. That's beautiful. And you can determine how those assets that are in your trust are to be divided once or if and when you ever decide to transition from this body. So you're all kings and queens. You all have trust. You all have money right now. It's not in your hands. So I want you to envision, think about how wonderful and amazing you're going to feel once you actually see the money with your eyes in your hands. So how you have to do now is act like it's already here. Attach a joyful feeling to the wealth that you have. Imagine how happy you're going to be able to feed your families. Imagine how wonderful and glorious it's going to be able to purchase whatever you desire, to live in a beautiful home, to clean the water. Imagine how wonderful it's going to feel to beautify your community, to plant flowers, wholesome, healthy heirloom seeds. Feel it. Doesn't it feel amazing to see and smell fresh flowers? Right now, they only plant trees that are male trees. That's why a lot of us have asthma and allergies, because these trees and flowers just shooting out pollen, and there are no female trees to catch it. These beings are nefarious. they have an ought against the feminine principle and against the divine feminine. There's something wrong with these entities that have enslaved the planet. That's why they keep out the woman when they talk about the Bible. They've kept out all the wonderful things that the divine feminine has done. They made Mary Magdalene a whore when in many accounts say she was actually the wife of the biblical person Jesus. They left out Aset when they talk about the Trinity. They call it Father, Son, Holy Ghost, but it was originally Asar, Aset, and Heru. Thank you. Asar, father, Aset, mother, Heru, son. It was father, mother, son, not father, mother, Holy Ghost. I mean, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. See how they kept out the divine feminine? So in Egypt, it was Asar, Aset, Heru, and then the Greeks who, went to Egypt, according to Stolen Legacy, written by George G.M. James and other accounts. The Greeks went to Egypt, learned how to do geometry, certain high sciences, were taught, according to what I read, by the Egyptians. They learned sacred science. They learned how to do magic. They learned a lot of stuff, but then they overtook the Egyptians, burned down their libraries, stole all the knowledge, and took all the stuff for themselves. And now they call it Greek mythology. So whereof it was Asar, Aset. What is it? Heru. Then they created Osiris, Isis, and Horus, father, mother, son. Then the Romans kind of capitalized on what they took from the Greeks, and they came up with Father, Son, Holy Ghost, but them all being male or masculine principles of each entity. They have something against the divine feminine, but they won't be able to do that because now the planet is being flooded with divine feminine energies. If you read the Sumerian texts and other texts that predate the Bible, Happy New Year, lady. I see you all chiming in. You know that they say that there were people that came from the planet Nibiru that seeded humanity, or certain types of humans. I guess there were different types of humans that have been here throughout the eons that we've existed on this planet. So when they came from the planet Nibiru, they came to not only mine the gold here, and they used the Igigi, which was the type of people that were here before, to mine the gold, but the Igigi staged a revolution according to the Sumerian text. And so the brothers that came here, Enki and Enlil, came here, and they decided that, okay, the Igigi won't work for us, and now we have to create a group of people using our genetics. So a lot of people will cite the texts that talk about Enki and Enlil, but they keep out the sister Ninhursag or Nimna, whose womb, their sister, whose womb that they use to incubate these new humans that they created, who they say are our ancestors. So allegedly, we are related to some of the beings that came here from other dimensions or other planets. They seeded us. So when you read the Sumerian text, they talk about Enki and Enlil. They call them the Elohim. They created religion. They created politics. They created a lot of things, and they taught it to the beings that are here, according to the Sumerian text. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying that's what the text that predate the Bible says. My point of bringing that up is just like they leave out the divine feminine in the religious text and they make her evil, they make her being a person that goes against the man. They put all the fault of humanity on Eve. They say that she went against Adam. They say she came from his rib, when, it really makes more sense that men come from women, because we each have a navel, which means that the navel is attached to the umbilical cord, which means the umbilical cord comes from a woman. So, that whole story in the Bible, I don't know if it's completely factual or it's an allegory, I don't know. I wasn't there. But saying that a woman came from a man's rib just seems a little kind of hard to prove scientifically. So they demonize Eve. They demonize Mary Magdalene. They don't talk about the prophetesses that were in the Bible. They don't talk about those who taught Jesus. They just don't talk about the divine feminine. It's another way to cause a division between the man and a woman. When the Aryans, according to when God was a woman, and some of the anthropological studies and books and authors, when the Aryans came out of the mountains, they decimated the female and feminine expressions of God, because each group of people on the planet had both a masculine expression of God and a feminine expression of God or the divine, a masculine expression of the divine and a feminine expression of divine that they venerated and reverenced. And because they had a masculine expression of the divine and a feminine expression of the divine, the peoples all over the planet. Thank you so much for blessing me, Daddy and a caddy. I appreciate the offering that you gave me. Thank you. When you have a divine and feminine expression of the divine or of source or of the creator, then you treat your ancestors, both the masculine and feminine, with reverence and respect. You treat each other with reverence and respect. You love and support each other. You reverence the role of the woman and the role of the man. You have a little to no friction because everybody respects each other. But when the Aryans, according to many anthropological texts, when you study anthropology, which I did in undergrad, along with social science, in my social sciences degree, I have an undergrad degree in social sciences, which means I study anthropology, sociology, psychology, political science, and economics. And I put that all in a degree called a social science degree. I created my own program. But the anthropological studies, you study the records of ancient people, you study the fossils, you study the artifacts, all of that in order to get an understanding of how the people live. You understand and overstand their culture, their philosophies, their traditions. But according to anthropological writings, the Aryans came out as a warrior group of beings or males out of the Caucasus Mountains and decimated the female or feminine expressions of God all across the planet. And they incorporated only masculine religions. That's where you got your Abrahamic religions. Only masculine religions with a male God as the head. No reverence for the divine feminine. But in fact, the divine feminine is subjugated and to any of the principles of the male, and her needs are not respected. Her way of doing things is not respected. They got rid of the feminine expressions of God. Thank you, Shane Crowders. Thank you so much for blessing me with $20. I appreciate you. They got rid of the divine feminine expressions of God. They got rid of the seers, the women who had wisdom, who could see into the future. They got rid of all of our women who were practicing what they now call magic. They unalived them and called them witches. But at the same time, they studied the magic for themselves, right? And they came up with a way to enslave the peoples on the planet by using our magic against us. They totally decimated the divine feminine. They totally got rid of matriarchal ways of doing things, because in matriarchal and matrilineal societies, the property and the wealth was passed through the woman, because when a wealth is passed through the woman, it doesn't matter who fathers the children. All children are provided for. And they controlled the womb of the woman, because now when you put in a lack of reverence and respect for the woman, and you put a man over all of her religion, her way of doing things, her way of having balance, because the divine feminine and masculine, that according to anthropological studies, actually in matriarchal or matrilineal societies operated in peace because the man was recognized as the warrior. He was respected as the warrior. He was respected as the one that would go out and kill the meat. He was respected as the one that would protect the clans and the tribes. The divine feminine or the woman was the one that would seek answers from the ancestors. The woman would perform so-called magic by coming up with concoctions to cure and heal people. The woman was the one who passed down culture and things like religion and philosophies. She taught. The woman sanctioned and anointed the king. The woman selected the king because the woman birthed him. She knew which child would be a great leader. But according to anthropological studies, you had Aryans that came out of Caucasus Mountains, decimated the female gods and the female expressions of God, did away with a lot of our matrilineal practices, said now that the property and the land could not be passed through the woman. But now, when they came, remember I told you about acts of war, they unalived some of the men and they took over the clans of women, and the men that stayed there, they made them slaves. But they took on these women as their wives or concubines, and now they took over the land that used to be passed on down to the woman, and they controlled the land. That's where you came up with some institutions as we know it today, where property is passed down through the man. And when you have property comes down through the man, it makes sense that he would he will control the womb of the woman, because all the property has to come through his seed and his seed alone, which makes sense. I'm not against it. I get it. I understand it. I understand it. No man is going to pass down property to that's not his seed unless he's just being benevolent. But when you had matrilineal societies where the property, the land, the wealth was passed down through the woman, it didn't matter who fathered her children. She could have had 4, 5 babies' fathers. It didn't matter, because those children were taken care of by her and with her property and by her uncles and her aunts and her household. I'm just telling you what I studied. I mean, don't shoot the messenger. I'm telling you what I studied. Will we ever return back to that? I don't know. We are here where we are. We need to just deal with and get along with each other where we are. But my point is, these entities that enslave the planet often targets and disrespects the divine feminine, disregards our ability to teach, disregard our voices, disregard our ability to see into the spiritual realm, disregard our practices to birthing practices, have us laying on our backs to give birth rather than squatting, defying gravity, disregarding us in terms of how we are to take care of our children. And when I was growing up, they used to say the children were daddy's maybe. What they say, mama's baby, daddy's maybe, because you always know that who's the mother of the child. You can because she's the one that birthed the child, but you don't necessarily know who fathered the child. That's why it's a big deal now when you have women blaming children on men that don't belong to them, because the men are like, I'm not taking care of another man's child. He's not going to be working to provide and protect and give money and nourishment to a child that doesn't belong to him. But my point is, during matrilineal, when they had matrilineal clans, that was not the case. When you take away the feminine expression of God and you do away with her so-called gods that look like her, and you do away with her matriarchs, and you do away with her culture, and you do away with the feminine characteristics of God or goddess, and you tell her that venerating a female expression of God is idol worship rather than respecting and honoring her inclination or proclivity to worship and adore a woman or a feminine expression of God, which makes more sense. Even men will naturally reverence and honor a feminine expression of God. But when you only venerate a masculine expression of God, then what are you doing? You're multiplying war. You're multiplying and feeding off of the masculine principles and energies of the masculine God. The masculine God is a God of war, because that's a masculine principle, to war, to protect, to provide, and to explore. But what about love, nurturing, operating in the spiritual realm, creating healing modalities and remedies? So when you eliminate the feminine expression of God, women don't know how to operate in their femininity. It's hard when the only idea and expression of God that she sees is not only a masculine man, but it looks like the colonizer. Like, this was done purposely. So now she's going to take on masculine characteristics, masculine aggressive behaviors. She's not going to respect that there's a difference between her and the man that she's married to, all because of these programming and ideologies that were put into our culture and into our so-called civilization. I don't even like the word civilization, because they make it seem like they had to civilize us. Thank you for being here, family. I appreciate you. Somebody said exactly. Yep. Thank you for understanding what I'm saying. Some people are saying it doesn't matter. I respect that. What I'm saying is, if you only teach a certain type of religion or philosophy and you keep out the divine feminine, you're going to have war. You're going to have sicknesses. You're going to have diseases, and you won't have balance. So my point is, they keep out the divine feminine. They took out Aset. They demonize Isis or Aset by calling the Islamic rebels that took over Iraq ISIS. They could have called her something else. They could have called that group something else. Yes, it's some Islamic faction or whatever, but they could have called it what Obama called it. Obama called it ISIL, and people made fun of him. But in my mind, they're demonizing ISIS or Aset, which the people in power like to do. Again, that's why they plant masculine seeds and no feminine trees to catch those seeds. That's why a lot of the cows and cattle that they would unalive would be the feminine, the females. They took away the feminine expression of God. They demonized the women in the Bible. And people teach their sons to run through women, and back in the day when I was growing up, to lie to women, to do certain things, that to get as much, go through them as much as you can, sow your royal oats. But then they'll demonize the woman who laid down and had sex with them and will not marry her because she's for the streets and she's only to play with. But this is the way we indoctrinate the minds of our sons. Now, we used to teach our daughters to keep their legs closed, to operate in their femininity, to be sweet, loving, and kind, to operate in our capacity to educate if we did have a job, or to bring life into the existence. But now we masculinize our women and tell them that you're equal to and the same as a man, when it's not true. We're not the same. We're not even physically built to do the same things that men do. Men don't want to make don't try to give birth. They don't even want to give birth to babies or do the things that we do, but we're trying to do the things that they do because of our indoctrination. Whereas I agree that some women are strong, and women are very highly intelligent beings. What I'm saying is, if you don't respect the divine feminine, you will have a planet that is imbalanced. But some people say that Ninhursag, or Nimna, the sister of Enki and Enlil, has returned. And they say that that's why you see the ships, because not only have these interdimensional beings come back, but they're not all masculine. Some of them are feminine, because the feminine energies have to flood the planet to restore love, balance, and peace on this plane. We have to get rid of all that energy that was destroying people through war. We have to get rid of that energy that was harming children, that was trafficking women and unaliving women and forcing them to breed, that was manipulating and mutilating women and men and children. We have to do away with all those energies. And the way you do that to some extent is to flood the planet with divine feminine energies so that you can have love and peace, planetary peace. So I said that, family, to say that these entities, yes, has destroyed the earth. However, we have ushered in a new year and we're calling it the golden era. We're ushering in respect for one another. We're ushering in balance and wholeness and high vibrational energies. We're ushering in wealth. We're ushering in prosperity and planetary peace. And we're all going to live in sovereignty and operate in our sovereign capacity as God beings. Somebody says, be nice. There's plenty to go around. Amen. There's plenty to go around. Oh, Daryl Johnson says men will always rule the world. Well, we're going to have a world where we have peace and we're going to restore balance. And the men are going to help do that. The men are going to help. The men are going to honor and respect the divine feminine, and the woman is going to reverence and respect the divine masculine, because it is one of the universal principles that you have to have the masculine and the feminine principle to operate in balance and harmony in order to restore the planet. So, a smart doesn't rule by violence, and a smart leader knows how to run his home and his society in harmony and balance with the woman. He won't do it by force. He will do it in love, and he would exert his authority as a man. But when you have balance, the woman respects and honors him, and he respects and honors her. And everybody operates in their role according to their capacity and their ability in the home and on the planet. So I don't think anybody has a problem with a man controlling or being the head of government or the home or whatever, as long as it's done in respect. And a woman should respect and honor who he is, or who she has decided to submit herself to. When I say submit, I'm saying to say, I want to be protected by you. The woman has to say, yes, you're the one that I want to be protected by, and you're the one I want to cover me. And as such, she respects and honors him in his role. And he respects and honors her in her role as being the governance of the house and teaching the children, or whatever you all decide it should be in your home, because it's not my job to say what should go on in your home. But these are things that you pass down through your generations according to your culture and your society, which has unfortunately been shattered and fractionalized by people who are in power, taking away authority from the people in the community that were supposed to bring about order, like the elders. You take away authority from the elders when you put them in a nursing home and leave there to convalesce, and you're not taking care of them. You take away authority from the elders when you say that the children have to respect somebody else outside of who's in their home and their community. You take away the authority of the elders when you have a government that dictates what you should do in your own home and in your own community. But we're restoring that. I command it to be so. And it starts with each and every one of you bringing about order, reciprocity, and harmony and balance in your life, your personal life, and in your house. If each and every one of us does have harmony, balance, and righteousness in our own bodies, in our own lives, and then we make sure we have that in our homes, then that will filter out into the community, because a whole healthy society is built upon a whole healthy community, and a whole healthy community is built upon a whole healthy family, and a whole healthy family is built upon you being whole and healthy and high vibrational. So having said that, family, we've ushered in a new year. Happy 2025. So many wonderful things are going to happen. Again, we're going to see technologies and secret patents that's been held away from us actually being released and unclassified into our reality starting this year, 2025. We're going to eliminate taxes, and we're going to put tariffs on governments and tariffs on those imported items that come into our country instead of taxing the people. That's the way we're going to get rid of income taxes. We're going to give every single person money in their quantum accounts, every single person on the planet. And that money will come from your own trust that you already have, as well as assets that were frozen by the deep state and the people in power, because their assets have been frozen through Executive Order 13818. A lot of these things that are coming down through President Trump were actually ordered and orchestrated by the Galactic Federation, or these interdimensional beings that are now on the planet to help humanity. Some of you have met them, but all of you will meet your guardian angel or your mentor, your galactic mentor, and they will take you through a chamber. And when you go through this chamber or this portal, then your body will be changed from this carnal body to a crystalline body. And that's what the Bible is referring to when it says, in a moment of the twinkling of an eye, we shall be changed. It says that there will be a second coming of Jesus, and the dead in Christ will rise first. Then those that are alive and remain shall be caught up to meet them in the air. And then in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye, your body shall be changed. That the same scripture talks about Satan being enslaved for 1,000 years. We're living in that time right now. And that's why all these interdimensional beings that were enslaving us, doing things to our children and to our women and men, and taking our blood and using our organs, those entities have been exited off the planet. Those satanic forces, Moloch, Baal, that children were sacrificed to in Hollywood and by political people, all of those so-called false gods, satanic entities, they were taken off the planet. So that is what it means by Satan being in chains for 1,000 years. And the second coming of Christ is a Christos consciousness, or an awakening. That's what Corona was about, Corona. They were talking to each other in terms, because Corona means crown. That means we've entered crown as in gold, crown as in the energy center above your head, Christos consciousness being awakened, you ascending to higher dimensions, to the fifth dimension and higher, your Christ consciousness ascending, the second coming of Christ, a Christos conscious awakening happening. The dead in Christ will rise first, and then those alive and remain will be caught up. All the people on the planet will ascend to higher dimensions once your Christos consciousness, your crown chakra, has been awakened. That's the era, the age of Aquarius that we have entered, the golden age, the Corona age. That's what they were talking about. So in 2019, remember they talked about how the people of God will be enslaved for hundreds of years, or the Aboriginal people will be enslaved for 400 years. And the people here were enslaved in 1619. The 400 years was up in 2019. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1619, it was up in 2019. But to keep us from arising, not just the Aboriginal people here, because as we ascend, everybody else will ascend because they came from us. As we tried to ascend in 2019, they tried to keep us down by putting in that sickness. That's why when Trump did his speech the other day, he said the golden age for America starts now. And we hope that we're able to continue on that vein. But when we tried to do it before, we had to deal with the shutdown of the planet because of the CV. When the people tried to ascend before and have their Christo consciousness, the second coming of Christ, because the 400 years of slavery were up, 1619 to 2019, the nefarious entities interjected into their reality, the CV-19. And that tried to, and to some extent, prevented us from ascending in consciousness, that prevented us from having a second coming of Christ's consciousness, of Christ's awakening, ascending to higher dimensions. So they tried to keep us back, and they did that with that sickness and through those things that they told us to take in our bodies. But the med beds would be able to mitigate it if you were forced to, or you felt compelled to take it. So, keep your vibrations high and stay positive. However, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024, 5 more years were added, just like the 5 recognized tribes of people here, the indigenous people here, just like we have 5 principles of the Moorish dynasty, right? Just like the 5 portals or 5 doors of Jubilee were opened by the Pope. All of that is happening for a reason. You add 5 years to the 2019, when we were supposed to ascend in consciousness and enter the age of Aquarius, or have a second coming of Christ, when the 400 years of slavery was up for us. You added 5 more years. That meant that 2024 ended all of that. And now we're into 2025, which is the time of Jubilee, and the biblical time where we will be caught up to meet him metaphorically in the air. Now, if you believe that that's going to happen, literally, awesome. Because I was raised a Christian too. I was actually raised in the Hebrew faith and then Christian. So, and I studied Islam, and I studied Buddhism, and I studied with the Hare Krishna because I wanted to learn about as much as I could. But my point is, whether or not you will have a literal meeting of the Christ in the air is something that only you can determine. But what I'm saying, we literally and we figuratively and metaphorically are having a second coming of Christ by having an awakening and ascension to higher dimensions. And that's amazing. And you will be changed in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye, when you go through these portals or chambers, and your body will change from carnal body to this ordinary flesh to a crystalline, beautiful, glorious body where you won't see death. And you won't have to eat the certain foods that we eat now. You will eat high vibrational foods. And then you will continue to ascend, where you will absorb energy. And you'll be able to do like some of the interdimensional beings do. So that's it, family. Happy New Year. Have a wonderful, prosperous New Year. Think about how glorious it's going to be. Write it down. And when you write down what the things that you will manifest with this new reality being in your existence, write it down and look at it. And then when you say it out loud, read it out loud. And then think about how wonderful you're going to be. And when that happens, attach a joyous emotion to it, and it will manifest more quickly. So my name is Dr. Kia Pruitt. I hope I've said something to raise your vibrations and inspire you to create the most amazing, magnificent life that you desire and deserve. Go to sleep thinking about how wonderful it's going to be to have all your debt erased, and to experience and to relish in and enjoy an abundant life and a wealthy prosperity reality. Good night for now, family. Safe travels in your dreams, because we're going to go to sleep one night and then wake up the next day to a new glorious reality. Peace. I love you. And thank you for all of your time, your blessings, your cash apps, and the money that you sent through this device. I love you. Good night. Happy 2025. Leave a comment. Let us know all your thoughts. Whether you agree or disagree, let us know your thoughts, and let's share with our families how we're going to manifest this beautiful new reality. Peace.